Oh, righty then. Should we add that one to the list? I don't know. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective might be an interesting little ride. Let's throw it in there just in case. Anyway, so add it to the list of things we could reimagine. Oh, for pity's sake, why would you fight me like that? Okay, everybody stop picking a fight. How are we doing here? All right, so the two we're playing with tonight, Roger Rabbit and Terminator. How would we go about reimagining them? Now, it's interesting to note that with the theme of Roger Rabbit, there are, I think, two other, I want to say Monkey Bone and Cool World are both movies in which humans and cartoons interact in a certain way. So that one's a little tricky. Terminator. Terminator. I mean, the robot apocalypse is not a unique story to Terminator. So how would we combat that? Or should we even bother combating that? I'm feeling like with some of the works we've done here, their origin sort of gets lost in the details of the new story. So having a traceable route is less important for what we're doing here. I feel like if we take something like Terminator, what are the important factors we want to play with? We have a robot. We have a conflict with robots trying to destroy humanity and an attempt to fix it, and time travel. Seems to me like the biggest, most important part of time travel, or time. Oh, wow. My brain just left the room. Okay, so the biggest, most important part of Terminator to play with, I think, is the time travel element. Because I can about an alien invasion and time travel to prevent it from happening. So there was a Charlie Sheen movie first, probably a decade or more ago, where aliens had come to Earth and they were causing global warming in an attempt to turn Earth into terraform Earth into a planet of their own needs. And like if you had something like that happening, like maybe you could set it up so that you have aliens came to Earth and took the planet and then set up technology that let them travel far enough into the past so that they're terraforming the Earth in the past so it's ready for their arrival. If you were to do something like that, would be a very subtle take on that, I think, though. And one of the other things you could potentially do is you could another example of traveling to the past to alter and play with the timeline to save it from an apocalypse is 12 Monkeys. There you go. Ooh. Okay, so that's not a bad way to take this in a new direction. What if the time travel mechanism we have here is nothing dead will go. So you have to transport a flesh-covered robot, which that always bothered me a little bit. So what if you did the same universe, or some debate if there's a way to make that work? I feel like if you were to build on that premise more, the replicants from Blade Runner. Oh, no, it's replicants from Blade Runner, the androids from Alien, and maybe something about Terminator in the mix. Some people try to combine those. I was thinking that maybe if you did something along the lines of replicants coming to the present from the future. I mean, you also have the potential of throwing in something like the Matrix. Ooh, or Star Trek Borg. That's tricky. So if we play around with the Terminator franchise, not just the first Terminator, which I'm tempted to just stick to the first Terminator. To be honest, the second Terminator had an okay villain and an interesting twist on... Ooh, well, maybe. If we play around a little bit with the second movie, starting with the premise of sort of 12 monkeying it, sort of quantum leaping it, we could potentially do a story of human beings. That would be an interesting twist. So if you had the mind, and say you had more than one person, or maybe just one person, that's hard to pick. So let's start with more than one person jumping into the past, into bodies of the people in the modern times. So future people jumping into the minds of people in modern times, but maybe they don't. And so when you push your mind, like a device that can influence minds, sent as a signal from the future into the past, allow somebody to take over the mind and body of... Yeah, you could do the story on two sides of the timeline too. Now this, I'm debating at this point whether it makes more sense and it's more interesting to do it as one person taking over multiple people. So we would take something like the character Reese from Terminator. So they might be taken into a police station, and they might be interrogated as to their behavior and their conduct, and their time limit of how much time they have in the present to do the things that they need to do. They're in the time frame trying to save the people that need to be saved and stop the development of the machines that will ultimately take over the world. And periodically, he has like this chunk of time where he's available to be in our current time. But if he keeps getting stopped or intercepted or locked up as crazy, that limited amount of time that he has to keep coming back. And maybe maybe we can do it a little bit as like it is one person for the first part of the story, and they're sort of required. They're struggling so much that as he goes back over and over again for a few days' time each time, and he keeps getting caught and pulled away by the cops or the psych ward or whatever, they in the future, isn't from the future, may have his time run out in the future because the enemy is attacking, and so he goes offline. So in this case, AI may be broadcasting its own signal to the present, and the AI in the present may be struggling with the fact that it is like, do we want it to take over human minds? Ooh, that may be the hinge point in the future. I think that's what we want to do for the hinge point in the future. AI has tried to dominate and destroy humanity or control the world, and their biggest hurdle is their inability to take over a human mind. AI intelligence, artificial intelligence, is fundamentally not functioning within the brains of the humans they've attempted to dominate and take over. In such a way that you could harvest a sheep to become a host if you could just figure out how to dominate their bodies. And there's a rebellion against that. Ooh, and the technology that they've been trying to use to dominate a human mind, hooked up to a piece of technology that can send signals through the time stream to the past, is what the humans are using to get to the past to try to prevent the AI apocalypse. That's it. That's what we're doing. And as a consequence of this, AI is also trying to get to the past to eliminate the people who could lead the resistance to the AI. I can see that working really decently. And the AI, because it can't seem to dominate the minds of humans, is forced to dominate our current technology. It becomes a roving, intelligent program that taps into our internet usage. And maybe part of its weakness is, or part of its strength, potentially, depending on how you look at it, is our current computers aren't strong enough or powerful enough to handle a self-aware AI from the future. So it's sort of partially distributed. It's like the Hydra. You could cut off one thing and it'll just grow another. I like that. That works actually surprisingly well. That's a really decent way to attempt to do a different take on Terminator. And part of the interesting aspect here is as the person or the AI is being broadcast from the future, and they keep coming back to the present, it's entirely possible that the hero character could find themselves in more than one body at the same time. He could literally meet and work with himself towards a goal. And it's actually fairly easy to do that. This is one of the tricky things about doing time travel type stories is, say you come to the present and the thing you have to do is so crazy that people's time, things aren't going right. You've hid what you need to achieve the next step. So the next body you take can piecing together a functional plan. And I think the appeal of this idea here also enables us to have, between missions 3 and 4 out of 5, he's in the future, he gets killed when they find where he is and for where the next step in the process would be. And he and his previous encounters would have run into her, and he knows that somewhere in the sequence of jumps that he's done, he doesn't survive to finish the mission. So he can tell her where the next part of the step is. But she can also, like, when she shows up and tries to get that information from him, it also, earlier in the story, we have to include an element where he uncovers the fact that if this is another person, this means that somewhere in my sequence of events coming up, I fail. Dude, that's pretty good. I kind of like that one. That gelled pretty quickly. They don't always go that cleanly and easily. Oh, that's an interesting take on that. And yeah, that AI taking over aspects of the internet becomes like the proverbial hacker in cyberpunk science fiction. They're able to influence part of our infrastructure. They could crash the stock market on a given day if they chose to, stopping the human time travelers from stopping them from coming into existence. So it's a two-pronged attack on their front. Oh, that would be interesting. And it potentially resolves some of that time traveler, a guy from the future is the father of the guy who causes the future to happen kind of stuff. It can be more of the mindset of, oh, maybe the characters whose minds are taken over, they are the foundation of the resistance, because they retain the memories of the people who are in their body for a period of time, and they're able to, some of the memories of their thoughts when they were in their bodies, and they have the ability to piece together between them what they may need to know to help form their resistance. And because some of them are either in jail or in a psych ward, they have a population of other people that they can sort of convert to the side of the resistance over time. I don't know. I think that one's a little more iffy at the end there. That converting inmates and psych ward patients, you might be able to convince the psych ward patients. I don't know about the inmates at a prison so much. Oh, but it's a definite interesting spin on that. And instead of trying to exterminate all humanity, that's a different enough pull on it that I think, like, it still sounds enough like elements of Terminator that if you really wanted to, you could find it in there. But it's different enough that you might not know to look for the similarities. Because we don't have a John Connor. We have a group of people who are the instigators of the rebellion. We don't have a cyborg going on a killing spree. We have an AI influencing technology and tampering with. I mean, it's going to have to figure out how to take over little robots and do little things. Like you could do a little bit of a creepy aspect to that, where like a webcam, like a child monitor camera, like you tap into that, and you could do like dash cams in police cars, like just reasonably connected technology. Have it tap into and control those things. Oh, you could also do cell phones. Tapping into the cell phone network so you know where people are. You would have to have the people in the future change the way they relate to technology. They can't completely get rid of technology that doesn't have like it can't have the capacity to think on its own. It's very Dune. Thinking machines are prohibited. So they're going to be much more into the mechanical electronics type technology that doesn't have a. Oh, you may have to learn techniques to be like mentats, the human computers from Dune. I'm kind of digging it. All right. Tunes outside of Toontown get into a situation that, ooh, I don't. I've never seen the Westworld TV series, but I'm wondering if that's potentially a way to do this. So I'm wondering if world that humans could go into, like a Westworld. I don't know. That seems more like a reworking of Westworld than Roger Rabbit. So Roger Rabbit is a cartoon in a world where Toontown residents have been able to leave Toontown and become part of our world. But Roger Rabbit is a cartoon who's been framed for murdering a human. And part of that framing is to get the deed to the ownership of Toontown. It is. The will grants Toons the right to own Toontown, but somebody's trying to prevent that from happening. I feel like this, like that element of the story, like the fugitive type storyline, the part of Roger Rabbit that's important. Do we necessarily want to do cartoons? In order to do, that's not bad. What if we did video game characters, but they become real people when they come outside of the video game? So you have You have video game characters coming out into the real world with real world bodies. Maybe. That's hard to say. Like, I like the idea of a human being with video game abilities in the real world. That almost makes them like superheroes at that point. So they become real people. And then the question is, like, who's the... It's not just called Roger Rabbit, it's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's a noir private detective story about uncovering what if it's what if the story is about a private detective or a police officer who uncovers the fact that there is a... Maybe they don't know. That's an interesting thing. So you have video game characters coming out into the real world and becoming real people, but still maintaining their abilities. And video game characters being video game characters, they still have to live true to themselves. And so, like, a Mortal Kombat game may very well, the characters might come out, live and blend in with the rest of society, but still periodically hold tournaments or something like that in like hidden areas. Oh, or have like of losing these games, but if you lose your game, you de-res and you return to the video game world. But in the process of doing that, you have a person, a detective, a cop, or maybe just a guy who uncovers that this is going on and gets pulled into that process. Do we do something in such a way that he now becomes a sort of a video game character in these games? I wonder if the character bonus, like a one-up, a bonus earned from defeating a role-playing game or a character in a game, gives him that one-up life that is a video game character's life. Oh, that's a weird way to take that. And this is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So this has got to be somebody who's investigating something. And in the spirit of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, he's going to be trying to help a cartoon character or a video game character. And the villain of it must be employing other video game characters and is secretly unknown to everybody involved, also a video game character. And the villain is trying to set things up in such a way that they can destroy the video game realm that they come from, so that you don't derez and go back to the video game realm. So you can't be sent back. That's an interesting spin. And I think it's distinct enough from Roger Rabbit that you wouldn't recognize the roots it comes from. I feel like the story, but not the hook, not the MacGuffin. I have to think about it a little bit more. But I think this is the right treat. You watching? Thanks for joining me. And until next time, take care and have a good night. Buenas noches.